Good morning. It's April the 12th of 2017. Reading in our one-year Bible study. It's called the One-Year Bible. We're using the English Standard Translation. It's an Old Testament, a New Testament, a Psalms, and a Proverbs. Good morning, Shannon. Hi, Brenda. And as we go through it, we read the Bible all the way from the front cover back to the back cover. So we read it all the way through. Good morning, Brandy. Love you too, Shannon. Hi, Cassie. Glad to have you all on. Hi, Kelly. I received that blessing. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, we're reading in Joshua chapter 5 through 7 this morning. Once again, you might think I'm a little strange, but I got a message in the Old Testament reading. That was exactly for me on April the 12th of 2017. I believe it's a message for all of us, though. We're reading about Joshua, and they've gone across to the Promised Land, and they're getting ready to take Jericho. God is leading them to Jericho, and he's speaking directly to Joshua. I love in verse, where is it? Got it marked. I'll find it. In verse 27, probably chapter 6, so the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. Now, that actually was after they've taken Jericho, but I wanted to make that point that God is with Joshua, and God is leading them to take Jericho. Hi, Linda. So happy to see you. And so God is leading them to take Jericho. And so they go in, and the instructions that God gives them is to march around Jericho, the city of Jericho, for 6 days. Thus you shall do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And just what, as I read today and read about Joshua and what the Lord required of him in these 6 days, it was really 7 days, but it was every day for 6 days. And then there's another place where it's towards the end, but I want to read it. I promise I'm going to wrap this all up for us. Over in the last chapter we're reading today, which is chapter 7, verse 6. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell to the earth on his face before the ark of the Lord until the evening, he and the elders of Israel. So Joshua falls on his face before the ark of the Lord, and he's laying prostrate, and he's praying. And Joshua takes his army, and they have to march around this city, this entire city, for 6 days in a row. And then on the 7th day, they have to count it, and they have to march around 7 days. And I got to thinking about my quiet time this morning. And I might have spent 15 minutes in my quiet time this morning. I'm just transparent with you. And I might have spent 20 minutes yesterday in my quiet time. And I think about the things right now today in my life I'm praying for. And it's like, if I don't have an answer right now, I'm just, well, God's not in it. Well, if I don't have the answer right now, did God hear my prayers? Did God? Now understand, I know God hears our prayers. I know. But my point in this is this instant gratification we all have. We won't dedicate ourselves to anything for any longer than about 5 minutes at a time. Or at least, I can't say we. Yeah, I can. It's our society. It's the world that we live in. The world of instant gratification. that is exactly the kind of the world that we live in. I mean, what if, just ask yourselves, like I asked myself this morning, if I got up this morning and God said, I want you to lay face down and I want you to pray to me today, one day. What if he asked you to do a half a day? What if he asked you to just do 1 hour, face down, praying to him? I didn't like the answer I had, folks. So he spoke to me in Joshua, marching around. I mean, okay, so let's say God burst this ministry in us, and we know we're supposed to. They knew they were supposed to go take Jericho. There was no doubt. God spoke to Joshua. We read that so the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all. They knew that when Joshua said, God said. They knew. There was no doubt. And they went and they spent 6 days marching around. And the seventh day, they counted 7 more trips around. And they did it. You know what? If we think that we know that God said this, that, or the other, we once again think it has to happen just right away. I mean, we just think it has to happen right now. There's no patience in us. There's no patience in me. I mean, today God is telling me to trust him. I mean, what do you think they felt on that third day? So they didn't have the luxury of cushioned shoes and high-end step shoes and comfortable shoes and clothes that was handmade just specifically for them. I mean, they didn't have the comforts and the luxury. They didn't get to stop and go into the air conditioning house and drink some lemonade and go back out and start it again. You see what I'm saying? I mean, how did they feel on the third day? Nothing's happened. They're marching around this city. Nothing's happening. And they were in a state of war. That it wasn't just that they went out there because it was a pastime to do. They were in a state of war. And then how did they feel the fourth day when they woke up and they're tired and their bones hurt and their muscles are sore? And then how did they feel the fifth day? Do you think they ever got to the point of saying, what good is this doing? Why am I still doing this? Why am I still believing? Why? How many times do we ask why? Why hasn't God heard my prayer? Why hasn't he answered me? Why hasn't he delivered me? Why hasn't he provided right now today? Why? You hear the selfishness in that? And again, that may not be any of you, but it's me. It's me. Why? Lord, take that word out of my vocabulary and replace it with, I trust you, Lord. I trust you, Lord. Now, the other thing that I want to make a point before I move off of this Old Testament reading is they did it for 6 days. And then over here in chapter 6, let's just start at verse 19. But all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted and the trumpets were blown. We're talking on the 7th day. They're in the 7th day on the 7th round around, and the trumpets sounded and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat. See, I don't think they murmured and complained. I don't think they doubted. I think they heard from God to march, and they didn't question, because they shouted a great shout. A great shout. I mean, I believe that great shout was them using their voices to worship God. They were using their voices to honor God. They were using their voices to make a shout of adoration that they trusted him. And this is what it said to me, that in my time of wait, First of all, waiting oftentimes, most times, is of the Lord. It's his timeline, not ours. We always want it to be our timeline, but not if we've submitted ourselves to him. It's his timeline. He gets to decide when the prayers are answered. He gets to decide when the provision is provided. He gets to decide when restoration happens. It's his timeline. But in the meantime, are we positioning ourselves in such gratefulness and with such an attitude of thanksgiving that when it comes, we shout? We shout? Or do we just, oh, well, it's about time. Well, it's about time. I'm just telling you, he spoke to me through Joshua personally, and I'm sharing it with you to encourage you to continue to read your Bible. Continue to allow God to speak to you and then verify what he's speaking to you and confirm it through his word. And then I love Luke chapter 15. I love this. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear Jesus. The tax collectors and the sinners. You do know that this is a representation of the worst of the worst. The tax collectors stole from people. They lied to them. They swindled them. They manipulated them. Every bad thing. That's what the reputation of the tax collectors in the day was. But just in case we had any doubt when God had this written down, it was tax collectors and sinners. That covers all of us. We're drawn to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, the man receives sinners and eats with them. Wow. So he told them this parable, Jesus did. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 to the open country and go after that one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I found my sheep that was lost. Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. I love it. I love it. I have had people look down their nose at me. I have had people that shunned me. I've had people that had an attitude with me. The sad part is, folks, I've been that person. There's been times in my life when I looked down my nose, when I had an attitude, when I shunned, when I acted as holier than thou. But these scriptures, that's why we read. Do you see? That's why we read. You know, little attitudes like that you don't just wake up one day and think, oh, well, I'm the righteous. I can't have supper with the tax collectors. Oh, I would never have those people in my home. You don't just wake up with that attitude. It starts with a tiny thought, and it starts with an influence somewhere, and it becomes a stronghold. And then the next thing you know, you wake up, and because you've had this promotion and that promotion, and because God's blessed you in this way and that way, and because of the blessings, all of a sudden you start elevating yourself instead of elevating him. And the next thing you know, you're judging people because they're having dinner with the tax collectors and the sinners. It doesn't just happen overnight. And so we read, and God uses this once again to show us his heart, that he'll leave the 99 to come after the one. I'm telling you guys, I was the one. I was the one. I'm so grateful he came after me. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. So anyway, that's what I got today. Love you guys so much. Thanks for joining. You guys bless my heart. God's good. So if nothing else happens today, I hope you're encouraged to stay in his word, stay close to him, be patient. Be patient. Wait on him. Be still and know that he's God. Be still. Be still. It's his timeline, and his timing in your life is always perfect. God bless y'all. We'll chat tomorrow.